It's that time of year again. Some of you might remember last year when I reviewed my favorite Christmas record of all time, Stax Soul Christmas. It definitely got another spin this year while my wife and I were decorating the tree, a Curtis family tradition. So I kept thinking, what other R&B classic could I possibly do this year? And unfortunately, my History of Rock crew is very busy this season.
Yeah, as much as I'd like to help you out, man, I got my own Christmas tradition.
Sorry, JT, I can't. I'm busy. I'm having a party at my place. It's crazy in here, Lots of people. Any minute now. Gonna show up. Door's gonna ring. Yep.
But since it ended up being an amazing year for this channel, thanks to you all, I decided I really wanted to do something special and review a few albums that were actually donated or suggested by fans and friends. Now, none of these are actually holiday records, save one that I'll include at the end, but spinning records on the turntable still puts me in the holiday spirit. And all these records have one thing in common: they're funky. Outside of classic rock, 70s funk is some of my favorite music of all time. I already did an Earth, Wind & Fire playlist video, and while I considered including one of Stevie Wonder's albums, I'm gonna save him for his own video. But counting down to Christmas, I'm going to review one funk album each day. So, these are the 5 days of Funkmas. The first album I'm going to highlight is the Ohio Players' Honey, and I want to give a special shout out to Jason Rosen, better known as Papa J, for hooking me up with this vintage copy. Thanks, Jason. The Ohio Players are regarded as one of the finest funk bands of the 70s, but they had already been around for a long time. I mean, their roots go back to the 50s with a few lineup changes along the way. But by 1974, they were topping the charts with hits like Skin Tight and Fire. Following these up in 1975 was the album Honey, widely regarded as their masterpiece and another bestseller thanks in part to that cover. I mean, look at this thing. There's not much more to say. If I was a teenage boy in the 70s, I would have framed this on my wall. The Ohio Players were no stranger to racy album covers, but this one went all out. Apparently during the photo shoot, Playboy model Ester Cordet got stuck to the floor and they had to thaw her out with warm water. So it's probably fitting that one of the album's most famous tunes is Sweet Sticky Thing. Oh yeah, the music leans just as hard into the sensual nature of things. What's most intriguing about the Ohio Players is how they toe the line from singing pop melodies to these darker but still sexy funk grooves. Guitarist and lead singer Sugarfoot kicks off with some Curtis Mayfield-style chords, with Billy Beck providing some string textures on keyboards. Drummer Diamond Williams and bassist Marshall Rock Jones give us a smooth groove, while the band sings the catchy melody in octaves. Then their sax player, Satch, begins soloing and never lets up. Some syncopated horns are joined by Pee-wee, not that Pee-wee, and Merv Pierce. For me, Sweet Sticky Thing is the album's essential track. It feels like their most dynamic and most innovative on this album. Now, the lyrics are not exactly the most cerebral ever written. I mean, you're not going to find a Mercy, Mercy Me or Higher Ground on this album. The Ohio Players sang about sex, and given the vibe they made with this, I don't see much of a reason to deviate from it. From watching their documentary, I learned that their method of writing was more spontaneous, very jammy, and a collaboration between all band members. They'd lay down a groove together as a band, and Satch would give them one word to focus on, hence why many of their titles are just one word.
Skin Tight, Honey, Fire, Rollercoaster. All in one word.
I'm glad I learned this information. It allowed me to listen to them with a different mindset, and once I spun the record again, I was really able to enjoy it. A great example of this is Fopp, a killer funk rock track, thanks in part to Sugarfoot's heavy guitars and vocals. You can see why Soundgarden decided to cover it. What does Fopp mean? Well, initially I thought maybe it was a stand-in for another four-letter word starting with the letter F, but I think it really just means rocking out, dancing, having a good time. Maybe with some cocaine involved.
Cocaine's a hell of a drug.
And by the way, can we acknowledge that drummer Diamond Williams is frickin' awesome? Stephen Quatros, our drummer from Seventh Son, said he's like the John Bonham of funk, and rightly so. I always found the song Let's Love to be kinda corny, but it works nicely in the context of the album, and I like that they poke fun at it a bit. The song's most famous tune, probably the Ohio Players' most famous in general, is Rollercoaster.
So we said, we're gonna call this Rollercoaster. And that's all was said. Nothing else was said. Rollercoaster, that's it.
There's an urban legend regarding a high-pitched scream that occurs halfway through the song. Legend has it that a woman was murdered in the studio while they were recording the song. In actuality, this was just Billy imitating a scream like one you would do while riding a roller coaster. It's also followed by a number of wails and yells by all band members. However, if you listen to this track backwards, you will hear the band confess that Paul McCartney is in fact actually dead. One of the most emotional songs is the closer, Alone. It's anchored by Sugarfoot's 2-chord vamp and dressed up with sparse percussion and provocative keyboard layers on Billy's part.
I don't wanna be alone.
Sugar really conveys this feeling of desperation and isolation, leaving the album on a dark note. And there's lots of ornate soundscapes to be found here, very prog. It's almost like the day in the life of the album. Even though it took me a couple listens, I really like Honey. Unlike a lot of other albums that go for the sex sells approach, they commit to the raunchiness of these songs and still show off great virtuoso musicianship and creativity. I'm gonna go ahead and give Honey by the Ohio Players a goldfish. What are your thoughts on the album? What's your favorite Ohio Players song? Comment below, let me know. Well, a good start to our Funkmas series, and we've got 4 more albums to go. So catch me tomorrow for another vinyl record. See you then.